So it's kind of a difficult question because art jewellery isn't that well known of a field, and so I will say I'm an art jeweller, and then I have to explain it usually because I don't want people to think I'm a jeweller working in gold and silver and making engagement rings. So I have to explain that I don't use metal, but yeah, I'll call myself an art jeweller. Okay, so today I'm wearing a necklace that was made for me by my friend Matt Lambert, who's a jewellery artist from Detroit, and it's made from laser cut leather, and it's hand woven. And then I'm also wearing this cuff, which I'm just test driving. I just made it a few days ago for a show I'm going to be doing later this year in America. It doesn't have a title yet, but it's hand sewn from flag fabric. It has a magnetic clasp, and you can see it's been influenced by the work I did in this show. So yeah, that's what I'm wearing today. Well, I studied sculpture when I first graduated after high school, and I finished that degree and I went on to be an art teacher. And then it was kind of by, it wasn't a planned thing that I was going to go into jewellery. I wanted to move to Canada from England because I'd met somebody and I was in a relationship, and I wasn't ready to marry this guy. So I became a student, and I was going to Calgary, that's where we were going to live, and I looked at Alberta College of Art and Design and the different areas of study I could focus on, and I decided that jewellery and metals would be a good fit for me in that it would teach me some skills, some very tangible skills that I didn't have after doing a very conceptual sculpture degree in England. And one of my friends said to me, yeah, you should do jewellery. And I thought, okay. And I did, and I didn't expect to become a jeweller. I didn't expect to even complete the degree, but I ended up doing the whole degree, and here I am now. And incidentally, I did actually marry the guy, and I'm still married to him now. We have 2 children, so there you go. Dreams can come true. My first exhibition of jewellery work, there wasn't a group, I did a number of group exhibitions, but I did an exhibition whilst I was at Alberta College of Art and Design. They have a gallery there for student work called the Marion Nicole Gallery, and I was actually the coordinator of that gallery for at least a year whilst I was there. That was a job that I was allowed to do as an international student. I could work within the college, so I got the job as the gallery coordinator. So for a year I helped organise those exhibitions and review the applications for exhibitions. So whilst I was doing that, I was thinking about the kind of exhibition I'd like to have in that space. And so a year later, when I wasn't working as the coordinator, I applied and got a show at the Marion Nicole Gallery, and it was called Louise Perrone's Museum. And I transformed the gallery into a museum. I got paint that had been used in the Glenbow Museum in Calgary, and I painted the inside of the gallery this very dark blue that was referencing that museum. I had a security video outside. I had cases in the gallery with different samples of work. It was referencing all kinds of the way that craft is represented in museums. So I had all my tiny samples labelled that I'd made in jewellery, the different samples of gem settings and mechanical devices that we learn. I had bigger pieces which were roped off with do not touch signs. I had a piece that was missing because it was travelling in a travelling exhibition. So that was that exhibition. After working in aluminum for about 3 years, I was pregnant with my first child, and I didn't want to expose my unborn baby to the toxic chemicals and fumes that are involved in anodizing and working with aluminum. So I stopped working, and I stopped working for a longer period than I expected, because I went on to have 2 children. I had postpartum depression after having my second child, and it was really hard to get back to work. But when I was finally ready to start working after, well, my son was 5, I really didn't feel right going back to aluminum or metal even. I didn't want to, my studio was going to be in my house, and I felt nervous about having gas tanks and chemicals in the house with 2 little kids. So I had been sewing just sort of therapeutically, I guess, doing patchwork quilting, a technique that I'd learned. I think I learned it in brownies. I have a vague recollection of learning this technique in brownies, but I hadn't done it since, and then I somehow got into it again and taught myself to do it. And I thought about using fabric in my work, and I was looking for fabrics that would have the same kind of luster and colour and vibrance as anodized aluminum. So I'm really into thrift store shopping, and I went to my spiritual home of the thrift store and looked around, and I found men's silk neckties that had a really nice luster and colour, like shiny metal and anodized metal. So I took those and I started cutting them up and using paper. English paper piecing uses paper to stabilize the fabric, and then it's taken away. But when I started making, I kept the paper inside, and I could get that kind of structure that metal has. And I was really approaching textiles with my metalsmithing mentality that I can't shake. Once you become a metalsmith, it kind of stays with you, and the way you construct objects and think about making objects is you learn that, and you kind of can't unlearn it. So I created this way of working with fabric. I then started, for some reason, I was thinking about flags and signalling and how we use flags in a similar way to jewellery, that we can use it to signal to people, to mark territory, to pledge allegiance, in the same way that jewellery, we mark our territory on each other, or we try and guide people's view, how they look at us, how they see us. And so I went to the flag factory in Vancouver, and I bought from them a bunch of scrap flag fabric and started experimenting with that. And that was quite successful. Then I started thinking about the paper being a little bit not as long-lasting as I'd want it to be. So I found scrap. I got some scrap styrene, which is a type of plastic from the film industry, and I cut that with scissors. And then I started using that instead of the paper. And then my friend Jan Smith, who I'm working with on this show, who is a mentor to me, said that I should think about ways of being able to make work more quickly for production. So I had a bunch of shapes that I use a lot, laser cut in the styrene. So I've just got through, it just shows you how small the amounts of material I use. I've just got through my first bunch of laser cutting, which I had done, I can't think, it must be at least 3 years ago. So I'm going to go and get some more pieces laser cut soon. But otherwise I'll cut with scissors. So yeah, that is, in a way, there's less obstacles working the way I work than in aluminum. Part of the reason I work like that is so that I could do it anywhere. I can be in a doctor's waiting room sewing. I can have little Ziploc bags of pieces that I sew together when I have a moment. It's good being a mum, being able to, because you're not able to dedicate huge amounts of time always, and so this was a way for me to be able to work when I could get the chance, without having to set up a huge studio. My teaching is 1 day a week, and that's really good because being an artist working from home can be quite isolating, so it gets me out of the house, and I learn a lot from my students. I also volunteer for the Society of North American Goldsmiths, so if you are a member of the Society of North American Goldsmiths and your membership lapses, you will receive an email from me asking you to give us feedback about that. I'm also the president of the Vancouver Metal Arts Association, which takes up a lot of my time. I'm also the coordinator with my friend Matty, who made this necklace. We are the coordinators of the SNAG's exhibition in motion, which we did last year and we're doing again this year. So I am pretty busy. My most recent experience of this has been for this exhibition when Jan and I set up a table outside of this gallery on a Sunday morning in the summer on Granville Island at the Crafthouse Gallery, and we set out our brooches, and we had an Instamatic camera, and we invited the public to choose a brooch, try it on, and we would take a photo of them, and then we included those photos in this exhibition. So it was a chance for the public who may not know anything about art jewellery to touch it, to try it on, to see themselves wearing it in that photo. And one of the good things about it was seeing people who at first were reticent to take part, who maybe felt like they weren't dressed appropriately to wear a piece of jewellery like that, and then encouraging them, and they'd go, oh, okay, we'll do it. And then them seeing the photo and them actually turning out really fantastic images. One of the ones I'm thinking of is the woman who's riding a bicycle. I'm trying to see it on the wall. Yeah, it's in the middle actually. And she was in her cycling gear, sporty cycling helmet, and riding a bike, and had been, working out on her bike. And she didn't think she would look good for the photo, but she chose a red brooch, and it looked so good against her blue top. And the photo came out very interesting, and she was excited to engage with jewellery, so that was a good experience. I'm working on this series of works that I'm wearing today for the show that's going to be, it's called Sparkle Plenty. I was invited to take part in this show. It's in, I think it's Richmond, Virginia. It's called Quirk Gallery, and they've had this show called Sparkle Plenty for 11 years, I think. So I'm working on a series of pieces for that show. I'm also working on a series of cube-shaped pieces. I've just made the first 3, and I'm going to continue with that. That's using different fabrics. I'm using tweed and satin. Quite excited about those pieces. And then continuing with the Vancouver Metal Arts Association, planning exhibitions for the future that we're kind of excited about. Our membership's really growing, and we have a great website up now, so that's exciting. And then the SNAG, the Society of North American Goldsmiths exhibition in motion that I mentioned, I'm really excited about that. That's going to be in New Orleans in May, and Matty and I are working on a theme for that, and the call for entry will be out soon. So if you are interested in making a really big work that can be worn on the body and in that kind of show, then look out for that call for entry, because it's going to be a really great show. Well, if you've never engaged with art jewellery, this is a great opportunity. Jan Smith is an amazing artist who has a great reputation across North America and the world as a contemporary art jeweller working in enamel. and her work is fantastic. So it's a good opportunity to see her work and my work together, and see the contrast between and the similarities between our work. There aren't that many exhibitions of art jewellery in Vancouver, so this is a great opportunity. You can ask the people who work here to try stuff on. Please, I would really encourage you to do that. Even if you're not intending to buy the work, we would love you to try the work on and look at yourself and see how it feels, because that's a big part of art jewellery. We don't want you to just look at it, we want you to wear it. So please come and try it on. This is your chance. Don't miss out. Just thank you for this. Thank you to the Craft Council for this fantastic opportunity to show in this great space. And thank you to Jan. It was so good working with you, and we're going to keep working in the future. We've got plans to take this work further and show it in some other places, so that's really exciting. And thanks to everyone for watching.